Hello, hello. Welcome to this live Q&A all about Sweat Club. I am going to be answering some of the top questions that have come through about the new membership, questions I think that will be relevant. And if you are watching live or on the replay, do feel free to pop your questions in the chat and let me know if there's anything that you would like me to answer. So I'm not going to waste any time. I'm going to crack on with our questions because I know you're busy and we've all got stuff to do, places to go, people to see, etc. So let's crack on. Okay, let's start with what is Sweat Club, first of all. It is my brand new community-based membership specifically for midlife women to give you the tools, support, resources, and most of all, accountability to be consistent with the habits that really matter in midlife. So it's not a bunch of fluff. It's not a bunch of random stuff that you're gathering together from podcasts and Instagram reels and all the rest of it. It's actual, science-backed strategies supporting your nutrition and your nervous system to really help you balance your hormones and feel better, calmer, more energized, less like a hormonal hobgoblin in midlife. So that is the point of it. The reason why I set this up is because I was hit with perimenopause a couple of years ago and it really floored me. I felt confused. I felt alone. I felt isolated. I didn't get any answers. I tried HRT and it made me feel worse. And so I really felt like, God, I'm really going to have to figure this all out. And I didn't feel like I had anywhere that I could go to ask questions and really find out whether what I was experiencing was normal or not. So I really wanted to create a space for midlife women in particular to just get answers, get support, and get reassurance that what they're going through is normal. Obviously, it goes without saying, if there are persistent symptoms that you are concerned about, then you must go and see your doctor. I'm not a doctor, but a lot of the symptoms that we do experience in this life stage are part and parcel of our declining and fluctuating hormone levels. So they are to some extent normal, but we have more control over them than we would think. And, this is the thing that I think a lot of us get to this age and we're like, oh, well, that's it. That's it now. I'm just going to have to tolerate these symptoms. I'm just going to have to tolerate, feeling like crap, sleeping badly, feeling anxious, having no energy, hot sweats, night sweats, hot flushes, and all the rest of it. And you don't have to tolerate this. You do need to make some changes to your diet, lifestyle, and behaviors. And those are things that I'm going to be supporting you with inside Sweat Club. So that's kind of why, why I set it up. I wanted there to be a safe space, a safe community for midlife women to come together and get answers to questions and get real life support for their issues without overwhelm and without, trying a million different things and not being able to stick to any of them. So that is one of the reasons why I set it up. Why is it called Sweat Club? I've had a lot of comments about how people love the name. It's a fun name, a kind of fun play on Fight Club, a kind of, call to arms for menopausal women. You do not have to sweat. Most of us are already sweating. So it's really just a fun play on words, really, to bring together sweaty midlife women into a club. I do have some kind of fun copy around the first rule of Sweat Club is that we do talk about Sweat Club and we do talk about our issues because they need to be out in the open. So it's very much not about, staying silent like you would have done with the first rule of Fight Club. So that's what that's about. Who is it for? So specifically for midlife women, 40 plus, 40s and 50s. You are in this midlife stage of life. you don't have to know that you're perimenopausal. You don't have to have been diagnosed. In fact, it's kind of difficult to diagnose perimenopause because the hormone tests that your GP will do aren't going to tell you anything helpful. You're only really going to get a diagnosis of menopause when one of your specific hormones, FSH or follicle stimulating hormone, is changing. It really increases, and that's when your doctor may say, yes, you are menopausal. It may be that you haven't had a period for many months, or you might even be postmenopausal. It doesn't really matter. We don't have to put a label on it. The sort of differentiating factor between us and perhaps people who it's not for is that you feel that things have changed. Your body feels different. You're starting to get symptoms that you can't really explain. Maybe you've been to the doctor and you've had some tests and everything's quote unquote normal. They've said there's nothing wrong with you. Maybe there's some, maybe your vitamin D might be a bit low, but you've had all the tests that, have ruled anything sort of sinister out, but you sense that your body is changing, physically, emotionally. There might be, tangible symptoms that you can speak out loud, like night sweats, hot flushes, physical symptoms like bloating, skin changes. What else might we experience? If you're watching live, do pop in the chat any random symptoms you may be experiencing in this phase of your life. But the one of the things that that I experienced that's just a bit more unspoken and just kind of vague is a real loss of confidence, a loss of motivation, a loss of my self-esteem. And for somebody who was running quite a busy, successful business, this really floored me because it kind of impacted me in a way that made me feel that I couldn't do my job properly. I felt completely overwhelmed by the business I'd created, by running a team, by managing clients and all the content that I had to create. I just felt like it's too much. This is way overwhelming, and I felt completely burnt out. So that had a massive impact on my life and my business. Which, when I look back on it now, I can see that that's what was happening. And so I really had to take a step back. I really had to focus and prioritize my nervous system and my hormones and really start to do things differently. Because even though as a nutritionist, I thought, well, I'm healthy. I exercise and I eat well. Yeah, sure. I drink at the weekend, or I've got these habits. But overall I'm reasonably healthy. But actually, when I took a long hard look at some of my habits, they weren't really serving me the best way that they could in this phase of my life. So I really did have to make some changes to what I was doing, to the types of food that I was eating. I would frequently work out without having anything to eat, and actually that's not great for your cortisol. I wasn't necessarily getting enough protein throughout the day. Quite often I would just grab a really quick lunch that you wouldn't even really call a lunch. It was just something that I'd grab out the fridge and then carry on. Or I was working so hard that I would skip lunch altogether and then end up going to pick up the kids, with a chocolate bar in my hand, those kinds of things. And when I looked more deeply, I was like, these are not habits that are supporting my blood sugar, my hormones, my cortisol. And so when I really started to be intentional about these habits, I started to see a difference. And also in taking certain supplements, I had to change the supplements that I was on, because what I was taking was just a bit sort of generalized. It wasn't focused for menopause. And that really made a huge difference as well. And those are the kinds of things that I'm going to help you with. We're going to take a look at, your habits, your diet, your lifestyle, your supplements, your workout, your self-care. All of those things will have an impact on your hormones and, how you feel. And making achievable gradual changes to those things will really, really make a difference to, to how you feel. I have noticed a difference massively. And it wasn't changing everything at once, because I was too overwhelmed to do that. And I think for a lot of us, we're just too bloody overwhelmed to make all these changes. And so we spend our lives, listening to podcasts and clickbait stuff that we might see we might see, online Instagram posts. I've just had a message saying you can't see the chat or put in a question. That is strange. Live chat. I'm not sure why that would be. I don't know. I don't know. I'm live right now, so there's not a huge amount that I can do to help with the chat. Obviously, if everyone's experiencing chat issues, then then you're probably all struggling to post any question. I don't know what I can do. Short of, I don't want to stop the live because it says live chat here, so I can see the chat, but I can't see anyone posting. Well, look, I'll just carry on. If you are watching and you do have questions for me, then just DM me, email me, whatever. I'm sorry that you're struggling to interact live. That is a shame. But such is technology. What can we do? Yeah, sorry about that. Okay. So yeah, the whole point is that I have designed this membership, having run memberships for almost 10 years, I know what works, I know what doesn't work, I know what is overwhelming, and I know what pacing we need. And I've also been in memberships, I've been in courses, I've bought all sorts of other things, for things that I needed. And I feel I've spent a long time developing a kind of, a rhythm for this membership that is rooted in giving you support and consistency. Because the number one thing that I hear from people is, I know what I'm supposed to do, but I just don't do it. Or I start and I stop, or I start and I get distracted, or life gets in the way. And half of that is, on the one hand, yes, you might think you know what to do, but actually a lot of the strategies that perhaps you're being given are not the right ones. A lot of plans you might have downloaded, involve some kind of restriction or following something very rigidly, and that doesn't work for our busy lives. So really, it's not about that, but it's about giving you the right tools, focusing on one thing per month. So for 1 month, we might be really focusing and going deep on ensuring that we are getting enough protein every single day, right? And that includes learning, right, how much protein is in certain foods. I'm not going to get obsessive about tracking or counting, but you should know roughly, right, there's 6 grams of protein in an egg. So if I'm just having 1 egg for breakfast on a piece of white toast, that's not very much protein for my morning, for my breakfast. So we're really going to be looking at, like, okay, how much protein do we need? Roughly how much protein is there in certain foods? How can we build protein rich meals that consist of not just it's not just protein, because some proteins are also really high in fat, and we want to get the balance right. So we are going to be looking more into things like macronutrients, and learning how to build meals that sustain us, that help to balance our hormones. And it's going to be looking also at specific foods that support our liver, our estrogen metabolism, our cortisol. So whereas, so I had a really good question, Sue, if you're watching, I know you messaged me earlier asking how is this different from Nourish 365, which was the main membership that I ran for like 7 years. And my answer was, so if you've been in one of my previous memberships, my answer was that was more about kind of general healthy eating for women, whereas this is much more kind of laser focused on eating for your hormones. So it's not just going to be, have a bowl of porridge. I've always, talked about including all your macronutrients, but really we're going to be looking at focusing much more on certain foods that you might not be including in your diet on a regular basis, foods that support the specific, estrogen pathways in your liver, which is not stuff that I've really taught that much before. Also really looking at strategies that support cortisol, which is your main stress hormone, but in a way that is doable. So I talked about on the masterclass about these micro resets. We need to be resetting our nervous system on a regular basis throughout the day. So it's not enough to just, go to bed early once a week or go on holiday once or twice a year. That's not enough for your nervous system. Yes, that might reset your nervous system, but I don't know about you. When I go on holiday, it takes me 3 days to relax. So, that's because we're just so wound up so tightly before we ever go on holiday or do anything nice for ourselves. We need to find a way to drop our shoulders, to, activate our parasympathetic nervous system frequently throughout the day. And that's the kind of thing that's going to help us cope better. And I talked about all of the hormonal changes that are happening to us inside that masterclass. So do make sure you watch the replay if you haven't done already. But a lot of what I talked about in the masterclass will be what we're going into much more deeply inside Sweat Club. So we'll just be taking those principles, those strategies, and going deeper on them so that you have a really good understanding of what you're supposed to be doing, and you've got that support, accountability to make it consistent. I've got a question here about, do I have to give up any foods? No, but what I will say is that if your diet is really low in protein, if you're eating a lot of low fat foods, for example, if you're eating a lot of refined carbohydrates, then those foods are not going to be serving you. Those foods are not going to be supporting your blood sugar, your insulin, your estrogen, your cortisol. So it's not about giving things up. It's about maybe replacing things with foods that are going to be more supportive. And then over time, it might feel like, well, I don't actually eat white bread anymore. And that's not a bad thing. Yeah, of course, every now and then. But, the point is that we start to replace certain foods, certain dietary behaviors with things that are much more supportive and helpful for hormonal balance. Will there be recipes and meal plans? So we kick off. So as soon as you join, you're going to get a welcome email that has got a 2-week hormone reset, which you can start immediately. Now, the membership itself, the community itself, is going to open on Monday. And that's when I'm going to give new members access to the community platform. We're going to have a welcome party on Tuesday where I'll show you everything, how it all works, what we're going to be doing, etc. But for our first month, so June, essentially is this hormone reset. You get 2 meal plans that have been they're kind of different to the ones that I used to put together in that I've looked very carefully at the macros and also included the macros on the recipe. So you can see when you look at a meal, wow, that's got this many calories, that's got this much protein, this much fiber. And it's not about becoming obsessive about the numbers, because I'm not about that, but it's about educating you about food and nutrition so that you can look at something and go, that's not that balanced. That's actually got a bit too much carbohydrate. That's maybe going to make me feel a bit sluggish afterwards. So really, the more you know how to do this, the more you can learn how to put these meals together for yourself. But the 2-week hormone reset is a meal plan with a shopping list. You don't have to follow it to the letter. I'm all about flexibility. But if you did, you would feel great after 2 weeks. I'm telling you that. And it is low sugar, it's, high protein, high in healthy fats, all that good stuff. And also you get, the shopping list. So all you need to do is print that out, buy the foods. If you're feeding other mouths in your family, there are potentially meals that they might not want to eat. So, it is really about flexibility. You made it. Well done, Sue. The meal plans are gluten-free, and there will be options. They're not all completely gluten and dairy-free. They're all gluten-free, but options for dairy-free. So if you're dairy-free, you know that you're not to eat, cheese, yogurt, etc. There is some in the plans, not loads. And obviously, if you make those changes, that might well affect the macro balance of the actual meal. But we don't need to stress out too much about that. And as you know, you can always ask questions like, what can I have instead of this? What can I have instead of that? So yeah, no problem. Well done for getting on. I don't know how you managed that. And I don't know why you weren't able to get on before. So we start with this 2-week hormone reset. So any new member coming in will start with a 2-week hormone reset. And I think that just gives us a good, it kind of punctuates like where you are now and where we're going. It gives you a nice sort of, just a reset basically. And that's absolutely fine. And it's not diety. It's just giving you the tools that you need, to move forward. Oh, well done, Sue. All right. So what is actually included in the membership? So like I said, I've worked really hard. I've been very careful about balancing overwhelming me and giving you so much to do that you can't keep up. And that is a fine balance to strike, because I've joined loads of things before, other programs and sort of, course creators who have, piled up their courses and their memberships with stuff to call it value and said, oh, there's $2,000 worth of stuff and you can get it for 100 quid or whatever. And ultimately, you're just getting a whole bunch of PDFs, a whole bunch of trainings that you don't have time to actually use or implement, and they just end up in your inbox never being used. That's not what I wanted to create. This is not about giving you more stuff. It's about helping you implement A, the stuff that you kind of already know, and B, tailored stuff that is going to actually make a difference to your midlife hormones. So what's included is it's more about like a rhythm of support to help you stay consistent rather than a whole bunch of stuff to do, random irrelevant information. It is specifically tailored to what we need right now. So it might feel like a few months in, oh, we've done this before, but actually each time you kind of focus on one particular area, you get better at it. And that's how we build habits. So the focus is what I'm calling a monthly anchor, which is to ground you, to anchor you into one topic each month so that you're not overwhelmed. So you're not trying to do a million different things. So you're not, trying to change everything at once, right? We're just starting with one thing and acknowledging this stuff takes time. It takes time. And that's another key reason why, for me, I keep coming back to memberships. It really is just the best way to support women to create consistency and create those habits, because you need that ongoing support. So one thing a month. We're starting in June with a hormone reset. So you've got a month to kind of go through those 2 meal plans. You can repeat them, and we will also have twice a month live support calls. Again, I thought about pacing it. Sometimes weekly calls can feel too much, and if you can't come every week, you feel like you're not getting value because you've missed one. Okay, and I don't want that. I want it to be doable. So twice a month we'll have these live support calls. You can come and ask me anything. You can get unstuck, and I'll answer real answers to real questions. So it might be that you've listened to a podcast and Davina says this. Should I be doing that? What kind of collagen should I be taking? Do I really need to take this supplement? Do I need to wear a weighted vest? Do I need to buy a walking pad? Do I need to do ice baths? The answer to those questions, by the way, is no to any of those things. But I think we're so overwhelmed and so overloaded with information. I'm going to help you cut through it and help you do the things that matter. The lives will be during the day. Because I have to make this work for me. One of the reasons why I've been burnt out in the past is trying to serve everybody, and I can't do that. I'm knackered by the evening, quite frankly. So yeah, they'll always be recorded. So if you can't come live, you can watch them on a replay. But yeah, they'll be daytime. And then what I've built in are these audio reminders. So every single Monday, you're going to get a little pep talk, a little audio pep talk, which will remind you what we're doing that month, give you a little tip to make sure that you're implementing it. And it's just going to be short, because I don't know about you, but one of the reasons why you struggle to stick to things is because you don't have that kind of consistent accountability. And that's what this is going to give you. I've totally lost my train of thought. So this is like an easy, bite-sized way to remind you to do something. The irony of me forgetting what I was about to say when I just remembered, which was because we easily forget stuff. Irony not lost on me, because we easily forget stuff. I don't know about you, but my memory is just not what it was. My short-term memory is so bad, and that actually is quite hard to keep that going. So I'm going to remind you every single week what you need to be doing, and it might just be a little pep talk. It might just be a little motivational. Come on, we can do this. Fill up your water bottle, have your water today, go to bed earlier, turn your phone off, brain fog. Yeah, I know. It's some days is better than others. But I will tell you that there are some habits that really, really help with that. Water is one of them. Like keeping your brain hydrated does make a massive difference. Having enough fats, that kind of thing. Yeah. And I think our phones make our brain fog worse. So, yeah. So you have those audio reminders to remind you to do the thing. We have a private community away from Facebook. It's not in a Facebook group. I haven't used Facebook groups now for a couple of years, actually, because Meta has done, who own Facebook, just, they don't favor creators anymore. If you've got a Facebook group, chances are half your members aren't even seeing your stuff. So, I wanted somewhere where you would actually see it, where you could come away. You don't have to log into Facebook and see all of the other distractions before you actually find anything from the membership. It's in a separate place that you have to log into. So it is your responsibility to log into a separate platform, a separate community away from the normal social media that you go in, every time you open your phone as second nature. So you do have to make the effort to do that, but you'll also get email reminders as well. So to remind you to log in and stuff. And then there'll also be a growing kind of resource vault called the library. Again, I'm not going to overload that with a bunch of stuff that isn't relevant. I'll be adding to it monthly. So it's going to start with, the meal plans that we're starting with in the 2-week reset, and we'll build on that gradually, month by month. So I just want to remind you again that it's not about giving you more stuff. It's about giving you the support to implement stuff that matters. I'm just keeping a note of my questions. I think you asked this morning how it's different to my old membership. I think I've answered that. Can you ask me questions? Yes, I am available. You can post a question in the community as you would in a Facebook group. It's a newsfeed type of community. Post a question, I'll answer it. No worries. Or you can wait until one of our live support calls and I'll answer it on there. How much does it cost? We have a founding members rate of £33 a month. That's just how much it is. I was going to start justifying it, but I'm not going to, because that's how much it costs. That's how much it's worth. You do get access to a highly qualified individual with nutrition qualifications coming out my ears. So you will get a significant amount of support. And in the early days, when there's fewer members, it'll almost be like one-to-one/group coaching on the calls, which obviously is a lot more expensive to access, which you would get for the price of a monthly membership, rather than paying hundreds of pounds, which is how much it costs for coaching or one-to-one. I will just talk very briefly about weight loss, because I know that's something that a lot of us, struggle with at this stage. Perhaps you've gained weight. I certainly have. It's up and down all the time, reasonably stable, but, it just depends really. As I've always kind of, my philosophies have always been around, I don't actively teach you weight loss, in that I'm not going to give you calorie control plans. I'm not going to give you I'm not going to make you weigh yourself, but having sort of experienced weight gain over the last couple of years, and felt the frustration of that, I'm keen to give you strategies that help support your metabolism. Ultimately, it's not about eating less and working out harder. Those strategies that we used to do in our 20s and 30s, they just don't work. The fact is, and no one's going to tell you this, it's really fucking hard to lose significant amounts of weight at this stage in our lives. It just is. Our metabolisms are slower. We have more cortisol, so we're more stressed. We're just not burning fat the way we used to, because estrogen is a fat burning hormone and we have less of it. Insulin, it doesn't work as well, so we're storing more fat. We've just got a lot working against us, which is why when I talk about balancing hormones, these are hormones that help us to burn fat and stay consistent with our weight. What I don't want is, for you to feel like you've got to lose tons of weight or you're constantly yo-yoing. But, it's not, I've been quite, I guess, rigid in the past, I suppose, about, we're not allowed to talk about weight loss. And I've loosened my sort of philosophies on that a bit. You're welcome. You're allowed to have body goals. If one of your body goals is to lose weight, then that's fine. That's absolutely fine. What my stand on it is that it's not something that I actively promote. So you're going to see a lot of other perimenopause nutritionists and midlife wellness coaches out there, telling you that you can lose 10 pounds of cortisol fat in 30 days. It's such bullshit. Ultimately they're going to be putting you on some kind of restrictive diet. And while you might lose some weight in the short term, chances are you're going to gain it back again quite quickly when you're not following that rigid plan. So I'm all about consistency, sustainability. I'm about giving you a lifestyle that you can stick to, not giving you some unrealistic plan that you're just going to fall off the wagon and then feel guilty about. That's not what I'm about at all. So I think I've probably covered almost everything that I wanted to answer. If you are able to get onto the live chat, I don't know what the problem is with YouTube. I don't use YouTube a massive amount, but because I don't have a Facebook group, this was my only option. Do feel free to pop a question in the live chat if you're watching live, or you're most welcome to DM me if you're following me on Instagram, which is @nourished.lauren. You can email me on hello@laurengayfer.com. Doors to Sweat Club are open until Sunday evening, okay? And it's now Friday lunchtime. So you've got a couple of days to make up your mind, after which I'm going to close the doors. I'm going to focus on our new members, on delivering an amazing experience, on getting feedback on what's working and what's not, before I reopen the doors. And when I do reopen the doors, the price is going up to 37. So 33 is the founding price, and we're going to be popping it up, pushing it up slightly to 37. I do believe that's still 100% worth every single penny for what you're getting. And finally, you can stop, spending money on stuff that doesn't work. I mean, I don't know about you, but I've spent money on random bits and bobs that I just don't do. So this is your kind of one-stop shop for everything you need in midlife. And I'm really excited. And yeah, I hope to see anyone who's watching. I hope to see you there. And if you're watching on the replay, like I said, feel free to send me in your questions. But I think I've done quite well to do that in 30 minutes. I'm starting to sweat quite a bit. So I'm going to go and get a cold drink. And I will see you very soon. Thank you, those of you who join me live. And I'll catch you back here really soon. Take care. Bye.